The moment that changed everything for me happened in my own damn house, under my own roof, in the bedroom where I had slept beside my wife for the last 10 years. It wasn't some dramatic discovery in a hotel room or some cliched lipstick-on-the-collar bullshit. No, it was much worse than that. It was something I never could have prepared myself for, something so out of place that it made my entire reality crack in an instant. It was a Tuesday night. I remember that detail, because Tuesdays were always the most uneventful days of the week. Nothing ever happened on a Tuesday. It was the day you push through just to get to the middle of the week, a day that barely even registered in your memory. But this Tuesday would stick with me forever. I had come home from work later than usual, thanks to some last-minute bullshit meeting my boss decided to throw on my plate. Laura, my wife, had told me earlier that she was heading to bed early because she had a migraine. I didn't think much of it. She'd been complaining about headaches a lot lately, blaming work stress, blaming the weather, blaming anything except what was really causing them. When I walked into our bedroom, I immediately noticed something was off. The air felt wrong, stale in a way that didn't make sense. The curtains were slightly open, letting the dim glow of the streetlights spill into the room, casting weird shadows on the walls. But what caught my attention, what made my stomach twist into knots, was our bed. It looked wrong. Not unmade, not messy, but wrong. The blankets were smooth, too smooth, like someone had just hurriedly remade it. The pillows were arranged in a way that Laura never arranged them. She had this weird habit of stacking them a certain way, a habit I had mocked her for countless times. But now they were wrong, positioned in a way that was unfamiliar. I stepped closer, my heart already thudding in my chest for reasons I couldn't yet put into words. And then I smelled it. Cologne. Not mine. It was faint, but unmistakable. A scent that didn't belong to me, didn't belong to our house, didn't belong to this room where I'd spent years thinking I was safe. My fingers curled into fists as I stood there, my mind racing through possibilities, trying to find some explanation that didn't involve my wife betraying me in the worst possible way. Maybe someone had visited. Maybe she had lent something to a friend. Maybe I was imagining things. But then I saw it. A single sock, black, with a red stripe near the top, half hidden under the bed. I reached down and picked it up, holding it between my fingers like it was a piece of evidence in a crime scene, which in a way it was. It wasn't mine. It wasn't Laura's. And the realization of that fact hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. I stood there, gripping the sock, feeling the weight of what it meant, and suddenly the walls of our bedroom felt like they were closing in. My breathing was slow, controlled, but inside, something was breaking apart. Behind me, the bathroom door creaked open, and I turned just as Laura stepped out, wrapped in a towel, her damp hair clinging to her shoulders. She froze when she saw me standing there, the sock dangling from my fingers, my expression a mask of something she couldn't quite read. Or maybe she could. Maybe she already knew what was about to happen next. "Whose sock is this?" I asked, my voice calm, too calm, the kind of calm that only exists right before a storm. Her face changed in an instant, too fast, too unnatural. There was a flicker of something, a split second of panic before she quickly masked it with confusion, with forced innocence. "What?" she said, tilting her head like she didn't understand the question, like I had just asked her something in a language she didn't speak. I took a slow step forward, holding up the sock, watching her eyes dart to it, then back to me. "This? Whose is it?" She swallowed. "I don't know. Maybe it's yours." I laughed, a short, humorless laugh that sounded foreign coming out of my mouth. "Mine," I repeated, shaking my head. "Laura, I don't own socks like this. And I sure as hell don't leave single socks under our bed." She didn't speak. She didn't move. I watched her face carefully, waiting for the next excuse, waiting for whatever lie she was going to come up with, because I knew she was about to say something, and I knew it was going to be bullshit. Then she did something I wasn't expecting. She turned away from me, walked over to the dresser, and started going through one of the drawers, like she was searching for something. "What the hell are you doing?" I asked, my patience beginning to fray. She pulled out a handful of socks, my socks, and threw them onto the bed like that somehow proved her point. "See, she said, her voice forced, shaky. Maybe it just got mixed in with yours. Maybe you. Stop. I interrupted, my voice cutting through the room like a knife. Just stop. She did. She froze, her hands still half buried in the drawer, her back turned to me. You're lying, I said. Silence. I took another step forward, the sock still in my hand, my grip tightening around it like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. You want to tell me the truth now? Or should I start searching the house for more evidence? She finally turned around to face me, and for the first time since I walked into the room, I saw it. The crack in her carefully constructed mask. The guilt. The fear. And that was when I knew. I knew that whoever the sock belonged to had been here. In my home. In my bed. With my wife. And suddenly, I wasn't calm anymore. I stood there, sock still clenched in my hand, waiting for Laura to say something, anything, that would make this moment make sense. But she didn't. Her eyes flickered between mine and the floor, her lips slightly parted, like she wanted to speak but couldn't decide which lie to go with. I could hear the soft hum of the bathroom fan, still running behind her, the slight dripping of the faucet she hadn't turned off completely. The towel around her body was wrapped too tightly, like she was trying to protect herself from more than just the cold air outside the bathroom. But there was nothing she could do now, no way to fix this, no excuse that would make me believe that this sock, the one that didn't belong to me, had ended up under our bed by some accident. I took a step closer, and she stiffened, her fingers gripping the edge of the dresser like she needed to hold onto something solid. Say something, I said, my voice low, steady, but filled with something even I couldn't quite define yet. It wasn't just anger. It wasn't just hurt. It was something deeper, something darker, something that was quickly spreading through every inch of my body. Laura let out a slow breath, her shoulders rising and falling as if she was buying herself time, like the extra oxygen would help her come up with a way out of this. I don't know, she said finally, her voice softer than usual, almost fragile. Maybe it's one of yours from a long time ago. I laughed, but there was no humor in it, no warmth. From a long time ago? You expect me to believe that I somehow lost a sock under our bed and just never noticed? I shook my head, exhaling sharply. Try again. She swallowed, eyes darting towards the bedroom door, like she was debating whether to walk out, whether to run. But there was nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. I wasn't letting this go. Not this time. I don't know, Daniel, she said again, but there was a crack in her voice now, a slight shake to the way she said my name. Maybe it's from someone who visited. Maybe... I cut her off before she could go any further. Ooh, my grip on the sock tightened. Who visited? Because as far as I know, the only people who have been in this house are our friends, and I don't remember any of them walking around barefoot in our bedroom. Laura looked away, blinking rapidly, like she was trying to find an answer on the beige walls of our room. But there was nothing there for her, nothing but the weight of the silence pressing down on both of us. Daniel, I swear I don't know. Don't, I said, my voice sharper this time. Don't lie to me. She sucked in a shaky breath, her arms wrapping around herself, the towel shifting slightly as she did. Her body language had changed now, moving past the initial shock, settling into something else, defensiveness, irritation, maybe even anger. I'm not lying, she said, her tone more clipped now, like she was starting to resent the fact that I wasn't letting this go. I have no idea how that got there. Maybe you should stop overreacting. I felt my entire body stiffen at that. Overreacting. The word bounced around in my head like an insult, like she was flipping this back onto me, like I was the one creating a problem out of thin air. But the problem was already here, already sitting between us, suffocating the space that used to be filled with trust, with certainty. I lifted the sock again, shaking it slightly. Overreacting? You think I'm overreacting? You think it's normal to find another man's sock under our bed? You think I should just ignore it? Her eyes flashed with something I couldn't quite place. Frustration, panic, something in between. I don't know what you want me to say, she snapped. I don't have a goddamn explanation, Daniel. Maybe it got mixed in with the laundry. Maybe it belongs to one of your friends. Maybe... I let out a sharp breath, running a hand through my hair. My friends don't leave their clothes here, Laura. My friends don't come into our bedroom. and take off their socks. You know what this looks like. You know exactly what this looks like. She didn't respond right away. She just stood there, biting her lip, shifting her weight from one foot to the other. Then, finally, she let out a short, bitter laugh. So what? You think I'm cheating on you? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Her face hardened, her fingers tightening around the towel at her chest. That's insane, Daniel. That's absolutely insane. You think I bring someone here? To our bed? Do you really think that little of me? I took another step forward, closing the space between us. I don't know what to think anymore. I admitted, my voice quieter now, but no less intense. Because nothing about this makes sense. And you're not exactly convincing me otherwise. She opened her mouth like she was about to argue, about to throw something else in my face, but then she hesitated. She hesitated for just a second too long. And that was all I needed. I saw it in her eyes. The moment of hesitation, the flicker of guilt, the way her breathing changed ever so slightly. She wasn't going to admit it. She wasn't going to break down and confess. But she didn't have to. That single hesitation, that tiny, almost imperceptible pause, told me everything I needed to know. I felt something inside me snap into place, a final puzzle piece that I had been trying to ignore since the moment I picked up that sock. My stomach clenched, my hands curled into fists at my sides, and the weight of reality settled onto my shoulders like a crushing force. I turned away from her, tossing the sock onto the bed like it was worthless, like it was just another piece of trash in a house that suddenly didn't feel like mine anymore. You know what? I muttered, voice tight. Forget it. Laura frowned, arms still wrapped around herself. Forget it. I nodded, forcing out a breath, forcing myself to step back, to let the anger cool just enough so I didn't say something I couldn't take back. Yeah, forget it. I moved past her towards the door, because I already know the truth. She turned sharply, her voice rising behind me. Daniel, don't do this. I didn't stop. I didn't look back, because there was nothing else to say. I walked out of the bedroom, my body moving on autopilot, my mind trying to catch up with what had just happened. The walls of the house felt unfamiliar now, the air heavier than before, like I had stepped into a different reality where nothing made sense anymore. I heard Laura's footsteps behind me, quick and unsteady, and then her voice, sharp and defensive. Daniel, don't walk away from me like that. I kept going, down the hallway, past the framed pictures of us that now felt like a mockery of everything I thought we had built together. My hands clenched in a fist as I reached the living room. But before I could take another step, she grabbed my arm and pulled me to a stop. You're being ridiculous, she snapped, her grip tightening. You're acting like I just admitted to something I didn't even do. I turned to face her, and for a moment, we just stood there, staring at each other in the dim light of the house that no longer felt like home. My jaw was tight, my chest burning with an anger I had never felt before, not toward her. You didn't have to admit anything, I said finally, my voice steady, controlled. I saw in your face. Her eyes widened for half a second before she masked it with frustration. You saw what? Me being confused? Me not knowing how the hell a sock got under our bed. I exhaled sharply, shaking my head. No, Laura. I saw you hesitate. I saw the exact moment you realized you were caught. She let go of my arm, stepping back like I had just accused her of murder. Her arms crossed over her chest, the towel still wrapped around her, her wet hair dripping onto the floor. You're twisting this into something it's not, she said, voice quieter now, but still laced with irritation. You're making up some insane story in your head because you found one sock. I let out a short, bitter laugh, running a hand down my face. Right, because that's normal. Finding another man's sock under my bed is just something I should shrug off and forget about. Laura exhaled sharply, rubbing her temples like she was the one who had the right to be exhausted by this. I don't know what you want me to say, Daniel. Do you want me to just confess to something I didn't do, just so you can feel justified in being angry? I took a step closer, lowering my voice. I want the truth. She swallowed, looking away for a brief second, and that was all it took for my stomach to tighten even more. I nodded slowly, stepping back. That's what I thought. Her head snapped up, eyes blazing now. You are so fucking impossible, she spat. You're standing here accusing me, acting like a goddamn detective when you have nothing. Nothing, Daniel. Just your own paranoia. I clench my jaw, taking another breath, forcing myself to keep my voice even. Then tell me why you looked guilty as hell back there. Tell me why you won't just give me a straight answer. She hesitated again, and that was it. I turned and walked toward the couch, sitting down heavily, my hands clasped together as I tried to keep myself from exploding. The weight of everything pressed down on me, every second making it harder to breathe. I could hear her pacing behind me, the floor creaking under her steps, and then she stopped. I don't know how to explain this to you, she said finally, her voice different now, softer, almost resigned. Because no matter what I say, you've already made up your mind. I looked up at her, my eyes searching her face for something, anything, that could make me believe her. But all I saw was someone who was running out of ways to lie. Who is he? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Laura flinched, her body going rigid. There is no he, she said quickly, too quickly. I let out a slow breath, rubbing my temples. Jesus Christ, Laura, stop. Just stop. She didn't move, didn't speak. I stood up, turning to face her fully now. If you tell me the truth right now, I stopped myself, shaking my head. No, fuck that. I don't even know what I'd do. But I know that if you keep lying to me, I'll never be able to forgive you. Her throat moved as she swallowed, her hands tightening around the towel, knuckles turning white. Daniel, who is he? I asked again, my voice harder this time, sharper. For the first time in all the years I had known her, I saw real fear in her eyes. Not fear of me, not fear of some irrational overreaction, but fear of the moment she had spent so much time avoiding finally catching up to her. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her shoulders slumped slightly, and when she spoke again, her voice was so quiet I almost didn't hear it. I didn't want you to find out like this. My chest tightened, my hands curling into fists at my sides. So it's true, I said, the words tasting like poison in my mouth. Laura didn't answer right away. She just stared at me, eyes glassy, lips pressed together like she was trying to keep the truth from spilling out completely. Who? I asked again, my voice raw now. How long? She looked away, blinking rapidly, her breathing uneven. It was a mistake. I let out a harsh laugh, shaking my head. A mistake, I repeated. A mistake is forgetting to pick up the groceries. A mistake is sending a text to the wrong person. Sleeping with someone else isn't a fucking mistake, Laura. It's a choice. She exhaled shakily, her fingers gripping the towel tighter. It wasn't supposed to happen. It got complicated. I stared at her, my pulse pounding in my ears. How long? Silence. Laura. Her lips parted slightly, but no sound came out at first. And then, finally, 3 months. I closed my eyes, my breath catching in my throat. 3 months. 90 days. Over 1,000 hours of lying, sneaking around, pretending like everything was fine while I sat across from her at dinner, slept beside her, kissed her goodbye in the mornings. Who? I asked again, my voice barely above a whisper. She hesitated, and for a second, I thought she wouldn't answer. But then she did. It doesn't matter, she murmured. I let out a slow, bitter breath. Oh, it fucking matters, Laura. She looked down, shaking her head slightly. It's someone from work. My stomach twisted while rising in my throat. I had met some of her coworkers, shaken hands with them at events, smiled politely, never once suspecting that one of them was fucking my wife. I swallowed hard, taking a step back, running a hand down my face. I can't even look at you right now. She flinched at that, but I didn't care, because I was done. I sat in my car for almost an hour, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles ached, my mind racing through every possible way I could make Laura regret what she had done. 3 months. Every dinner we had, every conversation, every moment we spent together for the last 3 months had been a goddamn lie. She had kissed me with the same mouth she had used to whisper to someone else, had come home to me after being with him, had acted like nothing was wrong while making a fool out of me. I had never felt this level of anger before, this kind of rage that settled so deep in my bones it didn't even feel real. I wanted to scream, to punch something, to tear apart everything in that house, but that wouldn't change what had happened. That wouldn't make her hurt the way I was hurting. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the name I was looking for. Justin, one of the few people I still trusted. We had been friends for over 15 years, long before Laura had ever been part of my life, and I knew I could count on him. I hit call and waited, barely able to stay still as the phone rang. Done? It's late, what's up? I need a favor, I said, my voice low controlled. Are you home? Yeah, what's going on? I'll explain when I get there. Justin didn't ask any more questions, and I appreciated that. I started the car and drove, my mind already piecing together what needed to happen next. I wasn't going to sit back and be the pathetic husband who just accepted betrayal. I wasn't going to cry in a corner and let Laura walk away from this unscathed. She had made her choice, and now I was going to make mine. By the time I pulled up to Justin's house, I had already made a plan. Not a half-baked, emotional outburst kind of plan, but something real, something that would leave Laura with nothing. I walked inside, and Justin took one look at me and knew something was wrong. What happened? He asked, crossing his arms. She cheated on me, I said, my jaw tightening. His expression hardened immediately. What? When? For 3 months. Some guy from her job. Justin let out a sharp breath, shaking his head. Jesus Christ. I knew something was off with her. She always gave me that fake-ass vibe, like she was hiding something. You okay? I let out a bitter laugh, rubbing the back of my neck. Not even close. But I'm not here to talk about my feelings. I need your help. He nodded without hesitation. Whatever you need, man. I pulled out my phone and opened the Notes app, where I had already started listing what needed to be done. First, I need a lawyer. A good one. Someone who will make sure she gets nothing. Justin smirked. I've got a guy. My cousin went through a nasty divorce last year, and his lawyer tore his ex to shreds. I'll get you his number first thing in the morning. Good. Second, I need to find out exactly who this guy is. If it's someone from her job, there has to be proof. Emails, texts, something. Justin's smirk widened. I might know a way to help with that, too. Give me her work email. I raised an eyebrow. Why? Because I know someone who can get into her company's servers and pull whatever dirt she has on there. It's not exactly legal, so if you don't want to go down that road. I want it. I interrupted. Give me everything. He nodded. Done. I exhaled slowly, already feeling some of the anger inside me shift into something else. Control. This wasn't about rage anymore. This was about taking everything she thought she could get away with and turning it against her. I also need to move some money around, I said, locking eyes with Justin. She's not touching a cent of what I've worked for. He chuckled. I was waiting for that part. Want me to set up some new accounts for you? I nodded. As soon as possible. Justin leaned back against the counter, crossing his arms. So what's the endgame here? You want a clean break, or are you looking to really make her suffer? I let out a slow breath, staring at the wall for a moment. She didn't just cheat, Justin. She lied to my face every single day, came home to me like nothing was wrong, let me believe we still had something real while she was fucking someone else. She deserves worse than just a divorce. Justin nodded slowly, thinking, then let's make sure she gets exactly what she deserves. By the time I left his house that night, everything was set in motion. The next morning, I met with the lawyer Justin recommended, a guy named Aaron who looked more like a predator than a man. He listened to my situation without saying much, then leaned forward with a smile that sent a chill down my spine. She won't get a dime, he assured me. In fact, if she's been spending any of your money on this affair, we can even go after her for that. I shook his hand, satisfied. That night, I went home, but I didn't sleep in our bedroom. I barely spoke to Laura, who was starting to look more and more nervous as she realized I wasn't reacting the way she expected me to. She probably thought I'd beg, that I'd cry, that I'd try to fix things. But I wasn't that man. Not anymore. Over the next week, I gathered everything I needed. With Justin's help, I got access to Laura's emails and texts, confirming everything I had already known in my gut. The messages were disgusting, full of details I never should have had to see, pictures I never should have had to know existed. But they weren't just proof of her betrayal. They were ammunition. By the end of the second week, my accounts were moved, my lawyer had filed the paperwork, and I had everything I needed to make sure Laura walked away from this with nothing. The best part? I wasn't done yet, because I had one last move to make. Laura had been watching me for days, her movements slower, her her words more careful, like she was trying to figure out how much I knew and what I was planning to do about it. The silence between us had become unbearable for her, though for me, it was exactly what I needed. Every time she opened her mouth to speak, I saw the hesitation, the way she second-guessed herself, knowing that no matter what she said, it wouldn't fix what she had done. She wanted to talk, to explain, to find a way to twist the situation into something more manageable, something where she wasn't the villain. But I had no interest in hearing excuses. That time had passed. The moment finally came on a Sunday evening, exactly 2 weeks after she had admitted to the affair. I was sitting at the dining table, going through my laptop, finalizing the last steps of my plan, when she walked in and sat across from me. She didn't say anything at first, just folded her hands together and took a deep breath. "I can't do this anymore," she said, her voice quiet but firm. I didn't look up, didn't stop what I was doing. "Do what?" "This. Us. Whatever this is," she said, motioning between us. "You haven't spoken to me in days. You barely even look at me. If you're going to leave, just do it already." I closed my laptop and leaned back in my chair, finally meeting her eyes. "You don't get to decide when this ends, Laura. That's my choice now." She frowned, shifting uncomfortably. "What does that mean?" "It means you lost the right to control anything the moment you decided to cheat," I said simply. "I've been making my own decisions since then." Her lips pressed together, her hands tightening into fists. I already admitted it was a mistake. "What else do you want from me?" I exhaled slowly, shaking my head. "A mistake is something that happens once. Something you regret immediately. 3 months isn't a mistake, Laura. It's a pattern, a choice, one you made over and over again, knowing exactly what you were doing." She opened her mouth, then closed it, looking away for a moment before forcing herself to meet my gaze again. "So what happens now?" I let a small pause hang between us before speaking. "You're moving out." Her eyes widened slightly. "What?" I kept my voice calm, controlled. "You heard me. You're leaving. I've already filed the divorce papers. My lawyer sent them to yours yesterday. You should check your email." She stared at me, her face unreadable at first, but then the realization hit, and I saw it. The panic, the fear, the understanding that this wasn't just a fight she could win with empty promises. This was real. "You already filed?" she asked, her voice shaking slightly. "You didn't even talk to me about it?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Talk to you? You mean like the way you talked to me before you started fucking someone else?" "Like that." She flinched, but I didn't care. "I gave you 15 years, Laura. 15 years of trust, of loyalty, of believing we were building something real. And you threw it away for some guy at work. So no, I don't owe you a conversation about this. I don't owe you anything." She took a shaky breath, her fingers gripping the edge of the table like she needed to hold onto something. "Where am I supposed to go?" "That's not my problem," I said coldly. "Figure it out." Her jaw clenched, and for a moment, I thought she was going to fight back, but instead, she just exhaled slowly and looked down at the table. "You really hate me, don't you?" I didn't answer right away. I let the question sit there, let the weight of it sink into the space between us. Then, finally, I shook my head. "No," I admitted. "I don't hate you, Laura, but I don't respect you. And that's worse." She swallowed hard, blinking quickly like she was trying to hold back tears. "I never wanted to hurt you." I let out a bitter breath, shaking my head. "You didn't just hurt me. You destroyed everything we had. And for what? For someone who won't even matter a year from now." She looked away, her hands trembling slightly. "It wasn't like that." I leaned forward, locking eyes with her. "Then explain it to me, Laura. Tell me why. Why throw away everything we built? Why betray me? What was so goddamn important that it was worth risking everything?" She hesitated, her mouth opening slightly before she let out a slow, defeated sigh. "I don't know," she admitted. "It just happened." I laughed again, shaking my head. "Right. It just happened. Like you tripped and fell into his bed." She winced, but I wasn't interested in sparing her feelings. "This is the last time we're going to have this conversation," I said firmly. "I'm done trying to understand something that doesn't make sense. I don't care about your reasons. I don't care about your regrets. The only thing I care about now is making sure you're out of my life for good." She nodded slowly, wiping at her face as she looked away. "When do you want me gone?" "By the end of the week." She didn't argue, didn't try to negotiate, just nodded again, accepting what she had brought on herself. I stood up, grabbed my laptop, and started walking toward the stairs. But before I reached the hallway, she spoke again. "Daniel." I stopped, but I didn't turn around. "For what it's worth," she said softly, "I did love you." I stood there for a moment, letting the words settle, letting myself feel whatever was left to feel. Then I exhaled and walked away without looking back. Because it didn't matter anymore. Laura packed her things in silence, moving around the house like a ghost, careful not to make a sound, as if any noise might push me over the edge. I barely acknowledged her presence, going about my day as if she didn't exist, as if the woman I had once loved, the woman I'd shared my life with, had already disappeared. I worked from home, ate my meals, watched TV in the living room while she moved back and forth between the bedroom and the front door, carrying her boxes one by one. There was no final argument, no desperate last plea for me to reconsider. She knew it was over. She had known from the moment she admitted to what she had done. There was nothing left to fight for. On Friday evening, she stood by the front door, her suitcases lined up beside her, her keys in her hand, her eyes locked onto mine as if she was waiting for something. Maybe she expected some grand farewell, some last words to mark the end of our marriage, but I had none. I just sat on the couch, arms crossed, staring at the TV like she wasn't even there. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other, her fingers tightening around the handle of her suitcase. "I guess this is it," she said finally, her voice quiet. I didn't look at her. Yeah, a pause, long enough for her to take a breath, to gather whatever courage she thought she needed for this moment. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she said, her voice unsteady. "But I just want you to know that I'm sorry." I let out a slow breath, shaking my head. "You don't get to be sorry, Laura. You made your choices. You knew exactly what you were doing every time you left this house to be with him. You don't get to say sorry now, like it changes anything." Her eyes dropped to the floor, her lips pressing together like she was trying to hold back more words that didn't matter anymore. "I didn't want it to end like this," she murmured. I finally turned to look at her, my face unreadable. "Then you shouldn't have cheated." She swallowed hard, nodding slightly as if she had expected that response, but still stung to hear it. Without another word, she grabbed her suitcase, pulled open the door, and stepped outside. I watched as she walked to her car, loaded her things into the trunk, and stood there for a moment, staring at the house, maybe letting the reality sink in that she wasn't welcome here anymore. Then she got in, started the engine, and drove away without looking back. I sat there for a long time, staring at the empty space where her car had been, listening to the silence of the house that finally felt like mine again. There was no sadness, no overwhelming grief, just a strange sense of emptiness, like a chapter of my life had just been ripped out and tossed aside. But maybe that was a good thing. Maybe this was what moving on was supposed to feel like. Over the next few weeks, I adjusted to life without her. The bed felt bigger, the house quieter, but I didn't miss her. What I had missed was the illusion of the woman I thought I married, the version of her that had never really existed. I focused on myself, on rebuilding, on figuring out what came next. The divorce process moved quickly since she had no leverage, no claim to anything I'd worked for. My lawyer made sure of that. One evening, Justin came over with a six-pack, dropping down onto the couch beside me with a satisfied grin. "So, how's the single life treating you?" I shrugged, taking a sip of my beer. "Better than I expected." He nodded, taking a long drink from his bottle before smirking. "You know, I never liked her." I laughed, shaking my head. "Yeah, well, you were right." He clinked his bottle against mine. "Damn right I was. But hey, at least you're free now. No more lies, no more bullshit." I thought about that for a moment, letting the words settle in. He was right. I was free. I had spent years believing in something that wasn't real, and now, for the first time in a long time, I wasn't wasting my energy on someone who didn't deserve it. "Yeah," I said, leaning back against the couch. "No more bullshit." And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough.